Hello everyone, this is the final Exodus. I have an extremely important video for you, and I pray that our Father will be with my words and with my heart as I try to lasso the heavens. This is a tall order to try to unpack something that is even hard for me to get my arms around. Today's focus will be working on the temple foundation leading up to next week. Today is December 9th, and the day we are looking forward to is December 12th, and I'm going to unpack a little bit of that information. But the focus of this video, the primary focus of this video, will be these two questions. Why does the United States want to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? And the second question, why do so many people care? Have you ever thought about those two questions? Do you have answers? So I want you to listen very carefully to the words I'm going to unpack for you here today. And I think it might be a good idea to watch this video more than once, because it's going to have very, very difficult information for you. But I don't want you to have an encounter with the information. I want you to have an encounter with the one who made you. Let's get started by diving into his words regarding these things. I've been unpacking for you Haggai. And in Haggai, I show you that the Father of all creation does not mince words. And when he gives us a date, such as the 24th day of the 9th month, it's an important thing. And you say, well, I'm not so sure that that's important. Well, to emphasize how important it is, he repeats it many times. So he says here in Haggai 2:10, from this day onward. 2:10 he says on the 24th day of the 9th month, and in 2:15 he says from this day onward. This is a lunar month. The 24th day of the 9th month is the 9th month, the lunar month of Kislev. And he says from this month, from this day onward. He also goes on to say, from this day onward, in verse 18, from the 24th day of the 9th month, from the day when the temple of the Lord was founded. He says, from this day on. So see the repetition? And he's not done. In 2:20 he does it again. He states the 24th day of the 9th month, and then in verse 23, he says, on that day. So there's all kinds of references here. But the reference I want you to get your arm around is the one in 19, in verse 18, where he says, do consider from this day onward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, from the day when the temple of the Lord was founded. And I want you to understand that this is the day when the temple of the Lord was founded. Now, why is that so important? Well, it's a historical event, for one, where the foundation of the temple was completed on the 24th day of Kislev. But that's not all that important, other than the fact that it shows us something very spiritual. So there is a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality. The physical manifestation was the temple was founded on the 24th day of Kislev. What is the spiritual equivalent? Now listen to me. I'm telling you, this passage that Haggai penned was written for such a time as this. And I'm not kidding you. This is 2017. This was written for December of 2017. If you're not sure about that, or you want to learn more about that, go check out my other videos. I'm not going into it right now. But that's what this was written for such a time as this. So on the global scale, something very big happened in the last few weeks where President Donald Trump of the United States of America said that he wanted to move the embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Why would he want to do that? And why would that be such a problem? What was that significance as it pertains to these scriptures? So I'm going to unpack that for you here. And I have some notes for myself that you can follow along here. So let's follow here regarding some history, and we're going to go back into this partition that occurred for Israel, which had evil intentions in 1947. And this is going to get very difficult for you. I'm going to turn your world upside down. And I'm going to unpack the truth for you that is so difficult to comprehend that even though I know it, I can't really comprehend it. Like I say, I want to lasso the heavens with this video. So this is going to be very tough, and I'm warning you in advance that this is going to be tough. So let's take a look here at what actually happened in 1947. It says here in 1947, November 29th, that the state of Israel is born. They were born. And no state, can a nation appear in one day? Out of thin air when it didn't exist for 2,000 years? But that is exactly what happened here. And you have to ask yourself, why? And who did this? When I show you, you just probably won't believe it, or maybe you will believe it, but it's something very difficult to get your arms around. So let's unpack that a little bit. There was an issuing of the decree to birth the state of Israel, and I just showed you that visual. So who was behind this issuing of the decree that fulfilled Daniel 9:24 and 25? It began to unfold these verses. I've done many videos on this. But that action that happened in 1947 was extremely significant because it had biblical proportion. So who was behind it? Well, let's go back here and just take a look at this. Follow along closely with me. The United Nations began in 1945, and immediately they began to pull together this plan for Israel. Okay? Let's see if I don't know if I can enlarge that for you. The United Nations partition plan for Palestine to begin the state of Israel. Okay? You could see that right there. The United Nations began this. Well, it's actually very interesting to read that. I can include a link for you below. But the United Nations did this, and you have to ask yourself, well, why did they do this? What actually led to them doing this? So, have you heard about the UNSCOP? Have you heard about that? That's a very important piece of information. And I want to show it to you right here. The UNSCOP. What is it? It's the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine. The United Nations had a special committee on Palestine. And it says here at the bottom of this article, an international regime was envisioned for Jerusalem. Now, do you understand what that means? Say that to yourself. An international regime? An international regime was envisioned for Jerusalem? What? So they wanted to bring all the Jews back to Israel. They wanted to partition the land so that people of different beliefs could live there together. And then they wanted to create an international regime for Jerusalem. That's what they wanted to do. An international regime. So that's what this was all about. An international regime for Jerusalem. So who supported this international regime? It says here, let's just take a look at this. This is reports of pressure for and against this international regime. It says here, Zionists launched an intense White House lobby to have the international regime endorsed. So who supported it? Zionists wanted an international regime. And the effects were not trivial. The Democratic Party, a large part of whose contributions came from Jews, informed Truman that failure to live up to the promises to support the Jews in Palestine would constitute a danger for the Democratic Party. The definition of Jewish or the defection of Jewish votes in congressional elections in 1946 had contributed to electoral losses. Truman was, according to Roger Cohen, embittered by feelings of being a hostage to the lobby and its unwarranted interference. Do you realize what you're reading here? Does it make sense to you? Do you understand it? Something's going on here within the White House, within American politics, and it's being brought about by a special interest group that was lobbying for their interest to bring about an international regime through Jerusalem. These people were called Zionists. Who are the Zionists? So let's go look here now at Zionists. And why did the Zionists want to partition Jerusalem in 1947? So you're thinking about Zionists, and you think about Zionism, and you would think about them being, having a desire to make a one state of Israel and a one Jerusalem. But that's not at all what their desire was. They wanted a partition plan, and they wanted an international regime. Did you hear what I just said? What they wanted was the opposite of what you think. You think they wanted a state of Israel and a capital, Jerusalem. You think they wanted to restore the biblical condition of Israel. That's what you think. That's not at all what they wanted. Saying, wait a second, what? What did they want? They wanted a multi-ethnic and religious state with a capital that had an international regime. So who are these Zionists? Who are they? Well, the scriptures tell us, I know your tribulation and your poverty, it says in Revelation 2:9. But you are rich, and the blasphemy by those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. It says in Revelation 3:9, Behold, I will cause those of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. I will make them come and bow down at your feet, and I will make them know that I have loved you. What's going on here? What in essence is going on is that there are two Israels. One who claim they are, but are not, and the other who are true Israel. Two. That's really an important untangling of this twine ball. And that's the way I look at what we're talking about here. This is a big old twine ball. Like I say, lasso the heavens. I'm trying to untangle this mess for you so you understand the political implications of what is unfolding in our time. So that when I move forward with the scriptures, you're going to understand the prophecies concerning what is going on. Do you have questions? This would be a good time to write down your questions and then record them in the comments below. I have a few more things to accomplish here in this video, so let's keep pressing on. So these Zionists claim to be Jews, but are not. They are not. And they run the government of Israel right now. They run the government of Israel? Yep. You know, we think of Israel having a government just like our own, and that's not the case. If you look back in the scriptures, the scriptures showed where the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin, they ran the government of Israel. They ran the government. So God gave them his laws, and then they were to govern, not just like we think, a belief system. They actually governed the country with the laws of God, and it was their responsibility. They're the very people who crucified the Christ. They governed the affairs of Israel. And do you know today it's the very same way? They're governing the affairs of Israel. Behind the government, behind the scenes, they are the power at hand. And the Sanhedrin, this Pharisaical Sanhedrin, I don't know if I'm using the right words, but they have an Antichrist spirit. They are the people with the Antichrist spirit that would crucify the Christ. Okay, they have an Antichrist spirit, and they want to make Israel, and particularly Jerusalem, an international regime. And do you know why? Do you know why? Let's keep moving on as we unweave this twine ball. So let's take a look here at Jerusalem now. Let's come back here. This is what it looks like, guys. I think this is a fantastic picture, don't you? It shows the boundary of Jerusalem. And here you have the Dome of the Rock right here. And you have this partitioned city in quarters. The Jewish quarter, the Christian quarter, the Muslim quarter, and the Armenian quarter. And this is the partitioning of this international, the desire for the international regime. This is Jerusalem. And I'm going to come back to this visual in the days to come as I show you in Zechariah the prophecies concerning Jerusalem. And you're going to understand them. They're going to come to life for you. You're going to understand them. But this is the division of Jerusalem. So let's go back to our notes here. They partitioned it because they wanted to run the world from Jerusalem. The Antichrist Spirit is actually against God. And they think they're for God. But they want to have all the money and they want to have all the power. They want to rule and reign from the place of God, from the city of God, from the holy city. So the Antichrist Spirit wants whatever is God's. And they are in power to rule and reign from an international regime. And they think that is godly. They think that's the right thing to do. These are the people who own the central banks. These are the people who run the world. These are the people who intended at the beginning to bring in a new world order. And it's actually a reinstatement of an old world order that actually happened back in Genesis at the Tower of Babel. These are the people who want to make a name for themselves. And they erected in New York a new Freedom Tower. A Freedom Tower? The New World Freedom Tower, which is another example of the old Tower of Babel. Boy, I don't know if you're getting this. Am I losing you guys? What I'm trying to show you is in 1947, when the state of Israel was born, it had evil intentions to steal, kill, and destroy that which was God's. And those evil intentions have been occurring for 70 years. For 70 years, they've been occurring on the earth. The evil intentions to create an international regime through Israel, but not of the Lord. So when Zechariah in chapter 1 says, "How long will you have no compassion for Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, with which you have been indignant these 70 years?" He's actually talking about right now, these 70 years. We just passed the 70th anniversary of the issuing of the decree on November 29th, 1947. And he says, how long will you be indignant these 70 years? But the Lord answers and says, with gracious and comforting words, "I am exceedingly jealous for Jerusalem and Zion." So what's going to happen here is he's going to return to Jerusalem with compassion. And he says, my house, my Beth, will be built in it. My house, my temple, will be built in it. His temple? He's not talking about a physical temple. He's talking about a spiritual temple. And there are foundation blocks being laid even now. So that when we get to December 12th next week, we can say the foundation has been laid. For us human beings, laying a foundation is an event. But for reality, in reality, and for God, it is a process. The process of laying the foundations have been going on now for some time. And most people haven't been seeing it. And even last week, when President Trump proclaimed Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, most people don't understand the significance of that event. That event was like pouring concrete in the foundation of the temple. So he proclaimed Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and said, we're going to move the embassy of the United States back to Jerusalem. Now, I've taught you a lot here. Do you know why what President Trump said was significant? Do you know how this proclamation will stir a siege against Jerusalem to fulfill Zechariah chapter 12 in the coming months? I'm telling you in advance that it's going to happen. Because when it happens, you'll know that these scriptures are being fulfilled. And when it happens, what is that going to do to your faith? You're going to increase in your faith because you're seeing these things on the front end, not the back end. How does the work that President Trump did play into the foundation of the temple? So let's look at this verse again in Haggai. From this day onward, verse 18 of chapter 2, he says, this is what the Lord says. Consider, from this day onward. What day is that? December 12th, 2017. Or, in this case, it's the 24th day of the 9th lunar month of Kislev, which coincides in 2017 to the solar day of December 12th. And why December 12th, 2017? Because we are in the 70th Shavuot of Israel's existence. All these things are converging, you guys. So from this day, when the temple of the Lord was founded, okay, this is the day that the temple of the Lord is founded. And we're seeing events on the earth. There's no mistake what happened with President Trump. There's no mistake. That was right on time to fulfill these prophecies. The temple of the Lord is founded. The concrete is being poured, and it's almost hardening to the point where the foundation has been laid. The foundation that will be completed on December 12th, 2017, next week. From this day when the temple of the Lord is founded, he says, from this day I will bless you. What's going to happen? What is happening in the heavens right now? What is happening in the heavens, you guys? I'll tell you. The Father of all creation is turning his gaze back to Jerusalem, with which he says, I am exceedingly jealous for Jerusalem. So the work of these Antichrist spirits is going to get overthrown. He says, I am exceedingly jealous for Jerusalem. And he's turning his gaze away from the Gentiles. So the fullness of the Gentiles is coming in. And he's turning his gaze back to Jerusalem and on to Judah, so that when the siege comes against Jerusalem, it will also come against Judah. The siege is coming. This is the stirring of the waters, the setting up of the siege to come. So the state of Israel that was born in 1947 is about to be born again. It's about to be born again. Read these scriptures very closely and see what he says on this day. What you won't necessarily see it on the earth. People will say, nothing happened on December 12th. These are things that are happening in the heavens, you guys. In the heavens, I guarantee, this is going to happen. On December 12th, this is what's going to happen. Put that on your calendar. The Lord says, I will take you, and I will make you like a signet ring, for I have chosen you, declares the Lord of hosts. This is what's happening next week. And the story has been set. The foundations have been laid. In closing, I want to say this. Are you feeling a little bit frustrated? Did I take you out into such deep water you do not know how to swim? Well, don't have an encounter with the material. Don't have an encounter with theology or the intellect. No. If you did, you're missing the point. I'm not here to engage with you. I'm here to facilitate your encounter with the one who made you. Do you watch these videos for information or to draw near? Draw near to the one who created us. I really encourage you to draw near to him in the days to come, and he will continue to teach you. But I want to say this last closing thing. He has stepped in front of your path today and given you his words. These are the words of the Lord. And you have to ask yourself, if you were to look over all the earth, how many people have encountered this information to this point? How many people know what you know? And how many people are hearing the words of Haggai and the words of Zechariah? And how many people even care? How many people made it to the 34-minute mark of this video? God is standing in your path, and he's there to take care of you. Lean on him. Draw near to him, and he'll draw near to you, and you have nothing to fear. The Lord is with you. Be blessed, my friends. I will see you soon. God bless you.